When the red, red Robbie comes bobbing along, there'll be no more sobbing when he starts throbbing his own sweet song. Wake up, you sleepyheads, get out of bed, cheer up.
Hello and welcome to the Red Robin podcast, powered by Budget Tyres, Autocentre and 360 Chartered Accountants, the independent Warrington Wolves podcast. And it's another jam-packed Red Robin podcast weekly. Podcast regular James Purling joins me to look back at our defeat to Warrington and look forward to Saturday's trip to the south of France when we take on the Catalan Dragons. And hopefully later on in the podcast we'll be joined by two very special guests as Rovers PDRL captain Connor Lyons and coach Sarah Lyons join me to preview their season opening festival, which takes place on Saturday in Wigan. James, Rovers currently 2 victories from 4 games when it was 2 from 2. I think everyone was booking travel to Manchester, hotels in Manchester, ready for the grand final. I suppose we've had a little bit of a bump in the road, maybe being brought down to earth a little bit, but there's still plenty of positives to look at, isn't there?
There is, Chris, and good evening, everybody. And I think we were talking about this on the way out of the game on Friday night. When you think about the sort of the games we've had in the first 4 rounds, looking at Wigan, Salford, Leigh, and Warrington, you're probably thinking, if we get 2, we'll come out with 1 win from that lot. We're okay. We've actually got 2 wins. So for me, there is some positives there. We've got an extra win than we expected. Trouble is, I think that League game was probably the one that was probably most galling now, particularly after the performance on Friday night against Warrington. So I think there is still plenty of things to be positive about, and I think Friday night I thought they actually. I think the league game probably gave them a bit of a kick on the backside, and so actually thought, no, we do need to buckle down a lot more. And I think that certainly came through against Warrington. Yeah,
it's funny you mention a kick up the backside. Ethan Ryan, a player who was dropped from the squad. He hasn't been named in the squad for the Catalan game on Saturday. Went with a slightly different way of playing. Elliot Minchella wasn't in the squad. He was named at 18th man. Normally would see him at loose forward. And we've seen before, haven't we, Willie Peters not afraid to wield the axe. We're still waiting for that 80-minute performance, aren't we? Because as close as we was and why you definitely know they was in for a tough game, it wasn't an 80-minute performance. The first half was very patchy. Fortunately, we came back very strong in the second half, but we just couldn't do enough to get over the try line enough times, and we're still a little bit patchy at times, aren't we, James?
We are, yeah. I totally agree with that. We haven't really had a full 80-minute performance. I think, look at all the games that I played this season. There have been patches in the game when we sort of let the opposition back into it. And I suppose, again, one of the positives from that is if you probably looked at the team maybe last year and the season before, they would have probably been capitulated in that period and the game would have been lost completely. And just giving themselves too much to do to come back to actually get back in the game. But fair dues to them. They've hung in there. They've gone through the dips. They've hung in there and still come out the other side in a fairly strong position. But going back to the point about sort of dropping Ethan Ryan, I think one of the things that Willie Peters was sort of made perfectly clear throughout the whole pre-season, and something that I think a lot of the squad members through the media were sort of reiterating, was that nobody's place is guaranteed. And I really rate Ethan Ryan, but to be fair, he hadn't had the greatest starts of the season, particularly defensively. And I think there's probably no surprise that he was dropped. But then it's opened the opportunity for senior. I think I was surprised that Minchella didn't play. It's down as 18th man, so I don't know whether that was a tactical thing or again whether that was just a sort of say to Minchella, nobody's place is guaranteed. You've got to put the performance in week in consistently. But I'd expect to see Minchella back in the squad, back inside this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, Warrington, very strong down the middle. Willie Peters did say that he wanted an extra forward on the bench, which is why ultimately Minchele more of a ball playing loose forward than he is maybe a hard man running down the middle. We line up with a bench of Jesse Sue, Reece Kennedy, Jez Litton, and Matty Staunton. Our 13 was Lachlan Coote, Senior, Opachik, Wood, Hall, Lewis, Milnes, Luckley, Parcell, King, Holton, Batchelor, and Hadley. I mean, we've already mentioned Hadley. He actually made the most tackles out of any player in a single game this season, 58 tackles. Phenomenal. That included 6 missed tackles as well. So if it had nailed them ones, 17 carries as well. He did 15 marker tackles. Phenomenal effort, and probably that's why it justifies his place in the side. And I think we had to go big, didn't we? When you look at their players, I mean, Paul Vaughan, he's absolutely killing it stats wise. He's having such an important start to his Warrington career, so we had to counter that. And then you look at the bench that they had: Bullock, Walker, Whitehead. Interestingly, Greg Minikin named on the bench, didn't get on, so they actually only played with 3 interchanges in the victory over Rovers. And I think what was pleasing for me, and we've already sort of mentioned it a little bit, is that Willie Peters definitely wasn't happy with our first half showing, but we didn't let the game go away from us. So as bad as we might have been, and as disappointed as Willie Peters might have been in the side, a half-time score of 6 points to 12 in Wyre's favour probably wasn't too bad at the time.
No, it wasn't. I think we obviously started off well with getting the first try, but then, like I said, just at the end of the day, Warrington are the form team in the league this season. I think they showed in the previous game against Salford that they seem to have the capability this season to dig themselves out of a great big massive hole and pull the game out of the fire. So they came into the game with quite a lot of momentum, and we always knew they were going to be come back at us sort of fairly strongly, which is what they did. But like I say, only going in 6-12 at half time, I thought was really encouraging. Again, I think the Rover teams of a couple of years ago would have probably gone in 24-6 down, and the game would have been gone. And I think the way they stuck at it, I think you've got to give a lot of credit to the to the structures and the influence that Brett Delaney seems to be having on defence.
Yeah, and one of the criticisms that the team has faced this season has been our edge defence. Ethan Ryan obviously got the chop as a result of him coming out the line. I mean, we saw Ryan Hall doing it, and we spoke about in the previous podcast about how it looks like we're trying to make the pitch a little bit more compactor and defend a lot more in the middle. But Willie Peters was very happy with his edge defence. Unfortunately, though, it was down the middle where Warrington seemed to get a bit more favour with the tries that they scored. Vaughan, Nicholson and Michelele, that 3 tries down the middle. And I know for a fact Willie Peters wasn't happy, and that the forwards wasn't happy at the manner in which they conceded them scores.
Yeah, they did. They just sort of seemed to roll down the pitch, didn't they? And I think totally agree that the edge defence was certainly a vast improvement on what we saw against Lee. But again, given the sort of the size of the forwards that Warrington have got, we commented before the game, they just looked compared to the Rovers. We think we've probably got a bigger pack this season than we've had for a number of years, but they still look the Wire pack just look giants in comparison to our side. So yeah, that's always going to tell in the end. But again, the fact that we limited them to 3 tries, and one of those was in about 30 seconds from the end of the game. Again, it's probably just testament to the I think probably the solidity and robustness that we seem to now have in the middles in the defence.
Yeah, and picking up on what you just said there, James, it's not easy to defend when they're rolling down the middle, and they ended up rolling down the middle with the amount of 6 against that would be called in their favour. Willie Peters, after the game, left scratching his head a little bit. He said he wants clarification on what the 6 again rule actually is and how it's implemented, because he couldn't work out why Warrington were getting so many repeat sets. And I mean, let's be honest, it is hard to defend when you're getting repeat sets consistently against you. I know for a fact, James, you want Jack Smith's biggest fan probably on the night,
It's
and you're not the
certainly
only
off the Christmas card list.
yeah, not the only Rovers supporter, because some big calls did go Warrington's way, and it's it's funny, the penalty count was only 4-4, so it was actually equal at the end of the game. So when you look at that, you'd think that the Jack Smith wanting Wyer's favour too much, but these repeat sets did end up having such a big effect on the game.
They do, because it was. I think it was the times that they were being, it was awarding them, and the sort of manner they were being awarded, and I think it was just seemed to be that lack of consistency in the application of it. I think there's a couple of them where, I couldn't sort of get it. I understand if he's going to give a 6 again, if it's actually there's an interference going on at the ruck at the time. But there's a couple of instances, and I think the one particularly, the last one in the on the 5th tackle in the last minute, the ball had actually cleared the ruck, and it's almost like, oh, I better give a 6 again here, and he waved his arms, and there just seemed to be times when Warrington just seemed to be letting them lay on, and hands on the ball in the ruck, and just getting away with it. And I think we worked out it was about something like 7-1 in their favour. Now, if you're getting that sort of level, why isn't he brandishing a yellow card? Because it would suggest you're offending consistently, that you need to sort of take stronger action. And he didn't. And I think the one that we actually got was on the first tackle in hour 25, which is it's actually no use. It's neither use nor ornament. You might as well not bother. But at the end of the day, that didn't cost us. It's just frustrating that there seems to come at critical times when Rover just seems to be getting a bit of go forward and a bit of momentum, and sort of holding Warrington back. That on the 4th, 5th tackle, the 6th again would come in.
And you're right, it is killer times. Matt Brady on YouTube, he's put, I thought KR were very unlucky. The refereeing was very poor yet again. I watched the NRL and the standards are so much higher. Despite the performance of the referee, James, there was opportunities for Rovers to put points on the board. We saw Batchelor go close, Mikey Lewis, Rowan Milnes, 3 really presentable opportunities. And I dare say if they score them tries, we go on to win it, because that second half, we very much did have the roll on. We worked very hard to get ourselves in some really good attacking position. I thought our attack was a little bit clunky at times, which is probably to be expected when John Abdul's been so influential. He's missing. Rowan Milnes comes in. It's very hard for players to slot straight in and make an instant impact. Mike Lewis, we started to see a bit more magic from him when he had the ball in hand. We saw a couple of breaks from him. But like we said, there was chances to put that game to bed, and unfortunately, on Friday night we did come up short.
We did, and I think you're right. At times the attack was clunky, but then even though we were clunky, we still managed to create some really golden opportunities against a very strong team. I mean, Rowan Milnes, was unlucky to basically drop the ball as he was trying to put the ball over the line, and you can't fault him for having a go, because he was there the line. Why not have a go? Yeah. He dropped it. It's one of those things. But in that second half, I thought we were by far and away the better team. Warrington just didn't seem to be able to get out of their own half. Any other day, there's even one or two of those chances that were created, you go on to win the game. And it's just at the moment it's fine margins, and it's still a team that's probably been together for 4 rounds. They are starting to make progress. And say that the back to the pass into Coote, if that had gone to Coote's hand, he was over unopposed. Mikey's little chip through just not dropped out of his hands as he went to pick it up, and then Tom Opacek going pushed into touch on the first tackle from a scrum in the 10 yards from their own line. It's all it's fine margins that, but it shows we're creating those chances, and if we can just convert 2 or 3 of a couple of them a game, then we're going to win more than we lose. And the fact that we did it against a team like Warrington, I think again is a real positive. Yeah,
Daryl Powell said after the game, it was a phenomenal team effort in terms of the way we defended, because this was a tougher game as you were going to get. The game was such a tough one, and we knew it was going to be. Daryl Powell obviously relieved to come away with the 2 points. Obviously, it maintains their 100% record start to Super League. Couple of things that absolutely killed me on the night, though, James. There was the scrum in the second half where we passed it out on the very first where we got pushed into touch on the very
Oh yeah,
first.
that's when Topopacek again put it wide and went pushed into touch. Yeah, criminal.
And then there was the Lachlan Coote penalty kick.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is with Coote. He seems to be able to nail him from the touchline, but if you move him 10, 20 metres in from that touchline, it's almost whether the pressure's too much for him or whether the angle's not the right angle for him. But he is struggling, and it's become a feature of his kicking in his time at the Robins that these kicks that you expect him to fully well nail, he struggles. And that was a really crucial point in the game as well. It had put us level, I think, 12-all at the time. It was a big kick to miss, especially at that time of the game.
I totally agree. And I think, like I said, it is a conundrum because, as I say, I don't think he's missed one from the touchline. It's just, he's kicking from the touchline like he was at St Helens. But, like I said, it just seems to get closer to the post. It just goes all right. And that penalty that I missed, it never really looked like getting anywhere near the post. And I think what compounded it was it didn't even go dead. I think at least if it had gone dead, would have got the ball back. So the opportunity to create a bit more pressure, but it allowed them to run the ball out and get some relief. But I just can't put my finger on what's happening. I'm not a goal kicker expert or anything, but it just seems when they went for two, I thought, it's the right decision. It's kicking well. It's it looks like it's fairly straightforward. It'll go, and to see it then just sail past, is thinking, wow. Yeah.
I think what was telling as well, James, I think there was a bit of a deathly silence just after he missed it as well.
Yeah.
It was almost a reaction of shock that he missed it. But to his credit, he's so important to that side when he's got ball in hand. You see him under the high ball, so dependable. He was second top meter maker, 131 meters. When he comes into our attacking line, I think he had 5 attacking kicks. He offers so much to that side, and the goal kicks aside, he is really showing what he can do, and we just I hope that he stays injury free for the majority of the season, James, because when he plays, I do think we look like a totally different side.
We do. It's just so strange that the goal kicking is the bit there, like you say, is under the high ball, the ball goes up, you're not once thinking he's going to drop it. You're total confidence that it's going to get it, and it makes the yards. I mean, wasn't there a break he made about 30-40 yards in that first half, which just with a bit more luck it'd have been away, and then that would have created obviously another try. But it gives at the moment it's sort of very a lot offensively, just strong defensively, but just that goal kicking. But I can't understand why or what the rationale is for why. I know Abdul wasn't playing on Friday night, but the rest of the season Abdul was not been kicking, and I don't know why that's suddenly changed when Abdul was the primary kicker early last season. Not that he was doing very well at it, unfortunately. But
it's a good point, but we've already had three goal kickers: Coote, Dagger, Lewis. We're only 4 games into the season. And it was such a problem last season, wasn't it? That the inconsistency in the 2 points, and it is crucial. We saw when Lee came, they put Rovers to the sword. Reynolds nailed every single kick. And to be fair, when Dagger's played, I think he's nailed. I don't think he's missed a kick yet.
No, he hasn't. No,
so crucial, absolutely crucial. So hey, let's see what happens. Hopefully, we'll see Coote on Saturday, and he'll nail one in the 79th minute, and we'll go 2 points in front, and that'll be the match winner. But another player, James, who slotted in really well on Friday night was Frankie Holton. In the Man of Steel points, he got 2 points. Amazingly, Jordan Abdul didn't play, but yet he still got 3 points. So I joke, of course, it was Sam Cassiano who got the 3 points on Friday night. But Frankie Holton, the biggest compliment I can probably play to him is that it was a seamless change between him and Lynette. It was almost like there was no change. And the 2 tries he scored and the lines he ran were very much Kane Lynette-like. And I think that's the greatest compliment you can pay to him, really, is that the seamless transition from Lynette to Holton. And you'd say if Holton carries on, Lynette will have a bit of a fight on his hands to get his place back in the side.
No, I totally agree. I think, the way Holton was on Friday night is just reminiscent was, last season. I think, obviously he didn't play in the first game. His 18th man against Wigan. And I think, as he's come into the side, it just seemed to have got better and better all season, and just is actually making it, like I said, making it difficult for Willie Peters to leave him out, which is, the position we want to be in. And if you've got Halton and Batchelor playing so well in that second row, when the net's fit again, he is potentially going to struggle to get back in that side. And it's a great problem to have, that you've got such quality second rowers all playing, at their best. It's who just deciding who to leave out, and you've got to think also that Lewis Johnson's not even been featured yet this season. But no, I thought Halton was fully deserved man of the match on Friday night. Yeah,
and we'll talk about that. Like you say, the fight in the second rows for a place is really hot at the moment, and like we said, Johnson aren't even featured yet, which is promising, isn't it? When they've got such competition. I think when you sum up the game, James, it was just ultimate frustration, wasn't it? It was there to be won. I think Rovers had done enough in that second half to warrant the victory. Fair play to Warrington. They do look a bit more steely. They look like they've got a bit more resolve around them. I thought Williams was fantastic. He leads them round really well. Paul Vaughan, a fantastic player. The stats, the minutes he's playing is fantastic. But I think to Rovers' credit, although Williams did play well, bit of a general in the middle of the park, we kept him, 𝓲𝓷𝓷, quiet for long periods of the game. And that was, I think, what Willie Peters wants from a side is a team that is consistent in its defence. If you're consistent in your defence, you're going to win more games than you lose. And it is still work in progress. I wrote a piece during the week about how we're sort of still middle of the road. You look at the league table, stats wise, we're still sort of middle of the league. And for me, it can go either way. We can improve and get better, or we can get worse. Well, I don't think this Rovers side will get worse based on what we've seen. The start of the season, 2 from 4. It could very easily have been 4 from 4. And there's lots of promising signs, James, to suggest that we're going to get more victories than losses this season. Hopefully, then victories will be enough to propel us into the playoff spots.
There are, and I think for me, coming out of the ground on Friday night, my overall feeling was obviously very disappointed, but actually thinking about it was one that got away. It was one that say that it was there. The game was there to be won. I think you contrast that with the game against Leigh, where we just went at the races, and full credit to Leigh. They came in, did a job, and fully deserved their win. But on Friday night, totally different. It just felt as though it was one that got away, and that's, for me, is such a massive change in attitude and sort of belief around that team. You say very much work in progress. The fact that we are 2 from 2, but we're actually still got a positive points difference is again, I think, encouraging when you looked at the defensive so we say fluidity that we've had in previous years. And if we can sort of maintain that, we are going to win more than we will lose. I think the next few games coming up are going to be critical. Clearly, looking at the next sort of 4, and I'm sort of jumping ahead a bit, but we've got to be thinking of aiming to win at least 3 out of that 4. And I think if we're 3 out of 4, it'll show that to the rest of the league that we do mean business, and all those who were sort of tipping us to be relegated or finish bottom of the league, actually, you've put that in your pipe.
Well, do you know what, Jay? I totally forgot about that. Actually, the amount of pundits and bookies, etc., who tip Rovers to be cannon fodder and basically fighting it out down at the bottom and fighting over them relegation to get out of them relegation spots. Well, like I said, I've seen enough from that Rovers side to make me believe that there's plenty more to come. Obviously, I think one thing that we need, James, is consistency in our team selection. And Willie Peters has admitted yet he's still finding the right balance, the right plays in the right positions. And he reckons it might take up to 10 games for him to get it right, to find out really what his best team is.
Yeah, but even then, if it's just going to take those 10 games, the fact that we have got that quality to be able to bring in, we're not going to lose anything. I think the players that have come in over the last couple of games, like Sam Luckley against Lee and Frankie Halton last week, and Lewis Senior on Friday night, have certainly shown that we do have that quality and depth that we've been crying out for several seasons now. And if it does take Peter's 10 games to find out what his best combination is, I feel fairly confident after those 10 games we're still going to be there or thereabouts and still going to be competitive. And the fact that if he then gets that team he wants, or what's his strongest team, then I think the rest of the league is going to have to is going to be sitting up and taking notice of what we do.
Yeah, definitely. Well, James, that's put a full stop to our defeat to the Warrington Wolves last Friday. Of course, we take on Catalan Dragons this Saturday. But before then, we're going to be joined by Connor Lines and Sarah Lines. The Rovers PDRL season kicks off on Saturday in Wigan, and we're delighted that they've been able to join us for the podcast this week. Hi, Connor. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. You?
Yeah, I'm delighted, mate. It's not often we get a World Cup winner on the podcast, so congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hi, Connor.
Of course, you played for England in the PDRL World Cup, defeated New Zealand in the final, 42 points to 10. I think it was your pictures that were beamed all over social media, wasn't it? Were you lifting the trophy? I mean, just talk us through that, because it must have been a fantastic achievement and a fantastic occasion, Connor.
Yeah, it was one of the best moments I've ever done in rugby. Just to know that one day getting told I would never play rugby again to lifting the World Cup.
Yeah, it's fantastic, Connor. And if people do follow you on social media, you've had a very difficult start to life, and you're such an inspirational character for people, and the things that you managed to achieve in rugby league and in life in general. It's amazing, Connor. And captaining Hull Kingston Rovers, I mean, that must be another proud moment for yourself.
Yeah, it was icing on the cake, to be fair, because not long after I got back from the the England camp, I got a phone call saying, do I want to come down to Rovers and be the captain? And it was just like the icing on the cake, like I was definitely going to take it.
Yeah, fantastic, Connor. And there's that great picture in the that you did at the university with all the captains of all the women's side, men's side, PDRL side, etc. Shows a real united front for the club.
Yeah, it does. It just shows that the club's it's there for the community, and it supports everyone in the community.
Yeah, definitely. And we've got the first PDRL festival of the season, but it's a relatively new team, isn't it, at the club, Connor? Is it September last year that it was formed?
Yeah, it was formed in September, but we didn't really start training just before Christmas, really. And we hadn't even had like a friendly. So obviously, I've played PDRL before, so I basically tried to coach everyone up to know about the PDRL rules and getting prepared for obviously this tournament, because it'll be the first time some of them have played, and it'll be the first time people have actually come back to rugby after getting told they can't play again.
Yeah, fantastic. And Connor, a lot of people probably won't be aware of actually what PDRL is. So it's Physical Disability Rugby League, and there's a classification system within teams, isn't there? Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Basically, PDRL, there's 2 red shorts on a pitch at one time, which they are tag, where it's non-contact. I'm red shorts. Then all the rest is full tackle, full rules. So it's basically just like normal rugby, but it's for people who can't go back to full contact, basically like the full game. It's just another way for them to play the sport they love.
Yeah, wonderful. And who's part of the coaching team down there, Connor?
My auntie and a person called Brett.
Excellent.
And Gareth.
Is your auntie there, Sarah?
Yeah, Sarah's here.
Yeah, Sarah, do you want to come on and just tell us about what it's like coaching this side?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Sorry, Sarah. I was just going to say, what's it like coaching this side? I bet you must get plenty of enjoyment out of it as well.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Obviously, I retired from the ladies' team 2 years ago, and I kind of took a step back, and then the opportunity came along to coach the PDRL team. So it was like, yeah, definitely, and it's good to see sort of like players like Connor coming through the ranks, and putting on the whole Kingston Rovers shirt, which is so good for them all. It gives them that boost, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, of course it does, and it's great that we're able to offer that opportunity for people to play. And obviously, we've got the improvement in the women's side, the girls' teams at the club now. We've got the PDRL side, we've got the LDRL side. There's plenty of opportunities for people to play, and they've obviously just launched a new wheelchair side as well. So it is a club that's really representative of the community that it serves.
It is definitely. I'm also part of the wheelchair team as well, so.
Okay, God, you got plenty of
You
friends in
can do everything.
I have, yeah. I just love rugby. I always have done, and I've always been an avid OKR fan. So, to get involved like this is absolutely amazing.
No, it's wonderful, and you're all doing a fantastic job. The season starts on Saturday at Robin Park in Wigan. I think this season there's going to be 8 festivals. Teams play 2 games in a festival.
Yep.
There's going to be 9 teams competing in the league. Rovers, Salford, and our bitter rivals are in there for the very first time. And am I right, Connor, in thinking it's the first derby of the season on Saturday?
Yeah, it's how I say it's the first ever true derby in PDRL.
Why is that, Connor?
Because it's Rovers versus FC.
And how pleased will you be to be leading that side out when you take on the black and whites?
Yeah, I'll be really pleased because obviously I've always dreamt of playing for Rovers when I was obviously a youngster, getting asked to go down for trials there. But then obviously my injury happened before I could go down, and now I'm being told that I can play obviously for Rovers, and now I'm their captain and leading them out at the derby. It's one of the greatest honours I'll ever have.
Yeah, and that is fantastic, Connor. We obviously wish you all the very best of luck. Sarah, some of the other players we might want to look out for in the PDRL side.
What, for Rovers?
Yeah.
There's quite a few. We've got Anna Smalley. She's playing alongside her daughter Jade. Both ex-Hull White players. Anna had to retire due to a brain injury similar to Connor's. So it's good to see her back on the pitch. There's Ethan McNichols. He's come through from the LDRL. There's Josh Munro and Josh Clark. I could go on forever. They really are a good set of lads and lasses. And they really work hard. And I just hope they enjoy it on Sunday because it'd be good to see them all play.
Yeah, and Sarah, can people still come and join the team if they wanted to get involved?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we're always looking for players to get involved. We're training at the moment at Kingswood Academy on Bransholme every Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And yeah, more players the merrier. We're welcome to everybody, really.
Yeah, well, like I said, we wish you all the very best of luck starting on Saturday. Let's sock it to the black and whites and get the season rocking and rolling, I'm sure.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Get that first derby win under our belts and let's make sure that we're the top dog in this city. But Connor, it's been fantastic speaking to you. Sarah, thank you so much for your contribution well. I know volunteering, etc. It's not always easy. So the fact that you're giving up your time to coach the side, I know a lot of people being indebted to you, but all the best for this season ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good luck, Connor. Good luck, Sarah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
James, fantastic, isn't it? And we've spoken
about it is fantastic. It just shows that we're not, it's not just the club, our club, it puts the whole game out, being able to allow anybody to participate in the game and then enjoy it. And you like I say, you spoke about that pre-season photo at the university when there was a representative from all the players from all the clubs within the within Rovers, but also think about that picture that I had at the North Stand, with all the players there, including the netball thing, and it's absolutely fantastic, and just it's really, really positive, and just really shows that what the club can do and mean for the community, and which is essentially what it's so for me that's what it's all about. It's we still need to be grounded in representing the community and making the community proud of what of everybody who plays for, puts a shirt on for OKR.
Yeah, fantastic developments at the club. And we saw at the weekend, the women's side, they put 106 points past Wakefield. Fantastic result for them. We also saw a new club record being made. Demi Thomas, she scored 50 points in that game, 7 tries and 13 conversions. I think the previous record was held for over 118 years.
118 years, yeah.
It's a phenomenal achievement, and the women's side look to be going from strength to strength. The previous game when they played Alton, they were the grand final winners last season, I think, and they managed to defeat them. So I'm really looking for anyone who's listening, if you go to the women's games, if you're part of the women's self and you'd like to come on and shout about what you guys are doing, I'd love to have you on the podcast, because we'd like to shine a spotlight on all aspects of the club. So get involved if you can do.
Just say, John, that 106 as nil was actually also the club record score as well, beating the 100 points to 6 against Doncaster in 1990. So got two records in one day. It's fantastic.
I was going to say, James, well, and I have seen some people be a little bit sniffy about, well, you can't really compare them to the men's side, etc., etc. But for me, in this new era,
you can only play who's in front of you. And at whatever level that is, you can play what's in front of you, and I just think, I just think it's great that, just really shows the progress that, the women's team have made over the last, since they've started. And, look, the type, the quality of the player they're now able to recruit. And, I just think it's fantastic across the whole club.
Yeah, definitely. In some more club news, Conor Barley's joined York on a season-long loan. Probably going to benefit him doing that, isn't it, James? Because the reserves, I know they're in action on Saturday. They take on Warrington, 1 p.m. kickoff at Craven Park. That's a bit hit and miss, isn't it? The amount of games that they're going to be playing, if and when. So you can imagine that Conor Barley playing in the Championship, he'll be able to settle down. He'll be able to get games under his belt. And we saw him obviously feature for his last season in the senior side when injuries were starting to bite. But it seems like a move that's only going to benefit him.
Absolutely. I think, it's such a shame that the reserve just seems to be so hit and miss, when for me it's a crucial part of the whole league structure. It allows your first teamers to come back from injury. It allows the academy players a route into sort of getting a bit more experience within the structures of the parent club. But if it's not going to happen, then sending young players out on loan to quality Championship teams, that's going to benefit them as well, and ultimately benefit the club. Just look at Mikey Lewis. He spent a period on loan at York, played at Wembley for them, and he came back and he's not looked back. He's not looked back, and hopefully that'll happen to Conor Barley as well. But you got to also look at the quality of the players that he'll be playing against in that Championship. Some good players in there, some very strong teams as we've seen. With we've seen firsthand with Featherstone, and then Halifax beat them at the weekend. So it's going to be tough, but it's what's going to help that development.
Yeah, and the women are in action again at home on Sunday. They take on the Warrington Lunars, 2 p.m. kickoff on Sunday at Craven Park. Just some other club news, James. It was announced early today that, of course, Rovers take on Wakefield next Friday. The game was supposed to have been shown on Sky Sports. The RFL have requested that the game is not shown on Sky Sports due to concerns over the pitch. There's going to be a pitch inspection next week. Wigan versus Salford is now going to be the game on Sky, so that gives plenty of opportunity for Sky to get their plans and house in order on that one. It is a bit worrying though, James, isn't it, that they've gone to this level so early because of that concern that the pitch may not be playable next week. And as a supporter, I'm sort of scratching my head going, well, if it's that bad, there's a real doubt that this game will not be going ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's peak rugby league, isn't it? Really, that you got a team in the Premier Division of the game, and they've got big question marks around the pitch. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of what they've done with the pitch, but I always thought that the Wakefield pitch was supposed to be one of the best in the league anyway. So why did they want to rip it up and put something else down? But it's just farcical that you're expecting fans to commit to buying tickets to an away game. They may not know where it's going to be. I know it's not going to be a million miles away. You know, it probably might be Featherstone or wherever. But it's just farcical that we're in this situation, and you have to sort of think, actually, you know, if IMG are looking at this and sort of the coming to sort of grading of clubs, you know, how is that going to, you know, the sort of criteria they're going to be using to grade the overall clubs? But it's just a farce, really.
Yeah, very much amateur hour at Wakefield. Of course, had the problems. Catalan players suffered numerous injuries as a result of playing on the pitch.
Yeah.
The Huddersfield game, when they played them, that was in doubt. They had to have a pitch inspection, and it doesn't seem to be any improvement because, you know, there's going to be a pitch inspection next week as well. And, you know, you are worried that if the game does go ahead, our Rovers going to be on the end of, you know, injuries, etc., because of burns. Ultimately, what's happened, James, is they've relayed the pitch and they haven't given it enough time to bed in. So now they're trying to play catch up. But
so they played. Is it sort of part of synthetic pitch, or is it sort of?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, to be fair, it's a pitch that a lot of clubs have. So it is
right, because Huddersfield have got like a bit pitch, haven't they, where it's got grass and artificial stuff.
Yeah. So it's like a lot of clubs have them, James. The grass pitches, but they have synthetic fibres in them, and that makes them obviously better quality. But what they've not done is give it enough time to bed in.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're all going to be with bated breath, aren't we, next week now? We're waiting for the news on that pitch inspection, and it'll be very interesting to see how they inspect it and what the criteria is, etc. But, very much amateur hour in rugby league, and to be fair, we should be used to it by now. It shouldn't be a surprise, should it?
No.
Maybe what wasn't a surprise as well, James, is Willie Mason's comments about his time at Hull, if anyone's caught that clip. On the podcast he did over in Australia, where he mentioned what was it? Hull's the worst place in the world. He should have maybe thought about that before he come over here to catch a quick buck.
Well, he didn't want to hang around too long, did he? Anyway, so I think,
the less said about Willie Mason's time at Hull is probably the better at the moment.
Said the better.
And very briefly, ticket sales for the derby on Good Friday are going through the roof. Rovers fans are going to be slightly different parts of the stadium this time around. We're going to be in the northeast corner rather than traditionally when we're all behind the sticks. And it looks like the West Stand ticket sales are literally going through the roof. So it's going to be. I don't know if that's going to actually work against Hull, having Rovers in two places, because you're almost going to have two atmospheres coming at you.
You're going to have the noise are going to come from two sides. So I think,
and the way the ticket sales are going, you know, we're looking at. I've heard reports of well over 4,000 sold already. So well, there's only West Stand upper tickets left. I know the club today received a further allocation of 500 tickets, and there's no guarantee that they will receive any more. So if you do need a ticket and you want to go to that game, I'd be on the phone or on the internet tomorrow making sure you get them, because you don't want to miss this one. It's going to be a very intriguing encounter, but we've got plenty of time to talk about that game in the upcoming weeks. Rovers are in the south of France on Saturday as they take on unbeaten Catalan Dragons. They have put Wakefield to the sword, 38 points to 24. They've defeated Lee, 14 points to 6. They've beat the Bin Dippers, 38 points to 6. And then they've gone across to Wigan and beat them 18 points to 10. You could argue that they've had an easy run in, playing three of the teams that were probably favourites for relegation in Wakefield, Lee and Hull FC. So it's probably a bit of an easy run for them. But all joking aside, they do look pretty good when you consider as well they have been suffering from a number of injuries. The squad today announced Sam Tompkins, Mitchell Pearce still missing. Two massive players for them. But they're going about the business quite steadily at the moment, James.
They are. I agree. I think, you look at who they'd beaten. And, Lee was, we obviously struggled against Lee ourselves, but I was expecting Catalan to struggle this season. I think,
I put my hand up, James. I was the same.
I think, in a prediction I did, I'll put them finishing something about 8th or 9th or something like that. and I expected them to get rolled over by Wigan on last Thursday night. Particularly with the weather. Bit nippy in Wigan, bit of snow. And we know early in the season, Catalan don't travel particularly well. Early in the season. But I'll have to admit, hold my hands up. I was really impressed with them. I thought they really stuck it to Wigan. They sort of really dominated them. And he said, given the number of players that they were missing, the likes of Tompkins and Pearce, they're real driving forces. Thoroughly deserve their win, and I think they are going to be. And I suppose the encouraging thing from the I think they lost the game, didn't they, quite early in the game as well. So, he's obviously a decent player. Yeah, I thought that they thoroughly deserved the win, and I think actually, it's going to start making people sit up and take a bit more notice of them.
Yeah, Rose named their squad today. Matty Parcell, unfortunately missing due to injury. If everyone saw the Ben Curry tackle, he received a £250 fine on the back of that tackle on Parcell. Parcell hobbled off straight after. I mean, it was worth. We didn't really speak about it, James, when we talked about the Warrington game. Literally, Jez Litton had just come onto the pitch, and you could see that was probably going to double up with Parcell and Litton on the pitch, which would have really speeded up the ruck, caused Warrington problem. Soon as Litton, I mean, talk about bad luck. As soon as Litton comes onto the pitch, Parcell's hobbling off through injury, and I'd say bad luck. I mean, it's lucky that we made that interchange because then Litton could slot in straight into hooker, but that wasn't the intention at the time, and now we lose Parcell for a big game because there's no doubt that Parcell's a big play for the Robins.
He is, but I suppose again, just trying to sort of be looking at the silver lining on the cloud. It actually is potentially only going to be a week. It could have been a lot worse. I think. The previous week we'd seen Lynette hobble off, and he's going to be out for 4 weeks. So, and it seems in the past that when Parcell's got an injury, it does seem to be a 4 or 5 or 6 weeker. So to be missing a week, I think is it's livable with. It's livable, but again, unfortunately, it does give us fewer options in France. So it'd be interesting to see what direction Peters goes with rotating hookers, whether he plans to play Litton for the full 80, or whether he has somebody else in mind, like perhaps I don't know, Minchella, who has played hooker before, to come in and sort of do that rotation role.
Yeah, it's interesting because in the press conference that Willie Peters did yesterday, he spoke about Jez Litton and he spoke about how there's a lot of promise. People are bigging him up, tipping him for England honours, etc., etc. He's got to do it.
Yeah,
and this is the platform for him to do it. We saw him against Lee. I mean, he got hooked after a crazy offload, which led to a Lee try. Probably won his best game for the Red and Whites. Now, with Parcell not in the squad against Catalan, he's got a chance to really stake his claim for that hooker role, and especially that starting hooker role. And I suppose the gauntlet's been laid down to Jez Litton to say, look, if you want your chance, if you want to be the number one hooker at Hull Kingston Rovers, it's games like this where you've got to stand up and you've got to be the main man. Yeah,
absolutely. I think I think that's probably why. I think before the league game, he'd only played something like 27 minutes or something in the first 2 games. So I think probably again in the league game, Peters was trying to sort of saying, look, here's your opportunity, like say, and it wasn't as effective as it has been. But again, this week it's an opportunity to really actually, I can do it, and it's going to be challenging again. Against something like McAlorum and that big French pack. It's going to be challenging, but by the same token, he's probably got that sort of nippiness and speed around the ruck that is going to potentially upset some of these big players and put them on the back foot, which they won't enjoy doing, which were a position they won't enjoy being put in.
Yeah, and it is going to be very similar to the Warrington game, I think, James, in that they've got Torrico coming back. He's been named in the squad, Alex De Costa. And then you already look at, they've got Julian Busquet, Mike McMeekan, Manu Mao, Goudemond. They're a big unit. And maybe it takes one for Jez Litton to be buzzing around. Willie Peters did say that there would be cover at hooker in the squad on Saturday, which does lead you to think Elliot Minchella will be involved. I mean, we've seen Hadley's played hooker before. I wouldn't say he's the most natural just by his sheer size, which is probably why on Saturday, James, I'd favour Minchella at loose forward. But I think Hadley's done enough to deserve a place on the bench.
Yeah. For me personally, I'd actually leave Hadley where he is. The only change I would make would probably be either putting Litton to start at hooker, or as I say, a real care ball, putting Minchella in a hooker to start with. But after 58 tackles and the effort that Hadley did on Friday night, it's going to be a hard job to leave him out and put him on the bench.
Because I think it'd be hard place to do that, wouldn't you? On the back
exactly,
of that,
given the size that the Catalan forwards, and you said earlier, Minchella is more of that sort of ball player, which for me is why he might be better off as that cover for the hooker.
Yeah, and another welcome addition to the squad is 𝓴𝓸𝓷𝓼, currently the Man of Steel leader, and that's with missing a game as well. So, we've seen how important he is to Rovers, especially his kicking game. You expect him to slot straight in, which means that Milnes will probably drop out of the squad. To me, to be honest, James, I'm looking at that team from the Warrington game and I'm thinking there's not so many changes to be made, actually, because you're probably going to go, well, you're definitely going to go with Coote if he's fit. Senior, Ethan Ryan's not named in the squad again, so you'd expect Senior to line up on the right. Opacek at centre. Sam Wood did all right on
did all right,
Friday. He's doing all right. Ryan Hall, of course, probably one of the first names on the team sheet. And then you go Lewis Abdul. Starting props, James, we went with George King and Sam Luckley against Warrington. Kennedy and Sue came off the bench. I thought Kennedy showed up really well. I think Sue, he's pretty much a 7 out of 10 every game. He's got a real dog about him. He's got a bit of aggression. Be interesting to see if they get rotated or whether we go with King and Luckley again, because Luckley, probably someone who people thought would be on the fringes of the squad. He's someone who's coming in and really took his opportunity.
He has, and for me, I would keep Luckley and King as the starting props, and then bring Kennedy and Stu on as first interchange. But I think, fair due to Sam Luckley. I think so. Like I said, a lot of people thought he was going to be on the periphery. He'd be the only brought in, when we needed some cover or so a couple of injuries, etc. But fair dues, I think he's taken the mantle and sort of really gone with it. And I think if we look. It's probably not unsurprising given the way it was playing for Salford last season, and the comments that Salford fans were saying. The guy on the podcast before the Salford game saying, they really sort of were sorry to see him go. So now I think he's definitely deserves a starting spot, and I think King is King, isn't he? Really, you know what you're going to get.
He definitely is. Which leads me to the bench, James. So if you're going with Sue and Kennedy on the bench, and then you've either got Minchella or Hadley, there's a spot spare there, isn't there? So do we go with that extra forward, which would lead you to think it'd probably it'd be Johnson, wouldn't it?
Johnson,
Or do you go left field and maybe put a Dagger or Milnes or Tuahai on there? So I think that last spot on the interchange bench is a really interesting one.
Yeah. For me personally, I would go with Johnson just because of that extra forward power to compete against the Catalan forwards, and then Kinehorse be 18th man.
Yeah, I think
Well, we might be careful. I remember Kinehorse in there as a reserve hooker.
Yeah, we've seen him line up there as well, haven't we?
Exactly. I've seen Kinehorse line up everywhere, haven't we? To be fair.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, to be fair to Kinehorse, when he has played, he's never really let anyone down. He's been solid everywhere. No. He does offer you that utility value, whereas if you put potentially Johnson or you go left field with Dagger or Milnes, they're very specialised in what they do, whereas Kinehorse is someone who can, fill in pretty much any position in the team, almost. So it'd be really interesting to see how that. I mean, to be fair as well, we could be totally out with the team selection, but when you look at that squad, I don't think there's that much room to manoeuvre in where we're at, and I still think it's a very competitive squad, and it is going to be a real arm wrestle on Saturday. And I think the team that Willie Peters picks will be a team that can stay in the arm wrestle for as long as possible. And it starts with our defence, and we saw signs against Warrington. Our edge defence was certainly getting better, but again, down that middle, I think the forwards will be relishing the opportunity to come up against this Catalan side and really lay down a marker, because if we turn these over and we get a victory over in France on Saturday, and we do it with that against that pack Catalan have got, I think it lays down a real marker for the Robins.
It does, and like I say, I think the game on Saturday has got so many similarities between that game against Warrington. You're playing against a team who's unbeaten, but at the end of the day, unbeaten runs have got to come to an end sometime. So why not on Saturday? The key thing for me is just not to let them dominate down the middle, and get control that way. It's going to be difficult just because of the sheer size that they've and quality that they've got. But as we saw on Friday night, we can stick at it and hold our own, really.
Yeah. Obviously,
just
the
needs to do it for 80 minutes.
Yeah, and that is the challenge, isn't it? I think we are going to need an 80-minute performance to probably beat Catalan.
Yeah.
Saying that though, I mean, I think Willie Peters made the point about because they was asking him about travel and does it have an impact. And he said, look, going to Catalan really is no different to sitting on the M62 for 2.5 hours and there and back. And also weather-wise, you're not going across at the best time of year, are you? You're going at a time when the weather's very much similar to what we've got probably in this country, although the temperature might be a little bit higher. So it's not going to be completely different. And I think, again, this is a game which is very much in Rovers' grasp. And as long as, and I don't think we'll see that with Willie Peters' side, I think Willie Peters very much concentrates on what we do. He doesn't worry too much about the opposition. It's very much about what we do. So, hey, look, do you know what? I'd love to see us grind out an 8-6 or 8-0 victory. You know what I mean? A real proper back to the wall performance, because I think that's the kind of performance that'll set us in good stead for this season ahead. Are you going to put your neck on the line, James, and give us a score prediction?
I'm going to go for a Rovers win, about 14 points to 6.
Oh, that would be very interesting. Well, look, let's just hope we do come away with it, the victory, because what we have seen this Super League season already is that nothing's guaranteed. We've seen some crazy results already, and who would bet against the Robins going down to the south of France and coming away with the victory on Saturday? So fingers crossed. James, a huge pleasure as always. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me, Chris. Pleasure as always.
Let's hope next time we're on, we're talking about a resurgent Robins and a few more victories under our belts. Of course, we're powered by 360 Chartered Accountants and Budget Tyres Autocentre. But for now, please remember, just live, love, laugh and be happy.